Welcome, everyone. Today, we're exploring a really fascinating and deeply sensitive framework on human suffering and spiritual warfare. We're looking at the core concepts presented in Alondra Olivo's book, Endemoniados, which you can find right now on Amazon. Now, the title itself is quite striking. It translates to the possessed or demoniacs. But what we're going to do today is neutrally examine Olivo's specific framework. We'll look closely at how she approaches suffering, the spiritual battle she describes, and most importantly, the methodology she proposes for helping people through their absolute darkest moments. Okay, let's dive into this by starting with a really fundamental question that Olivo poses. How do we help those fighting invisible battles? This is the core human problem that this entire explainer addresses. I mean, think about it. We cross paths with people every single day, and we often have absolutely no idea what kind of heavy, unseen struggles they're carrying around. Olivo's framework is built entirely on the premise that these invisible battles are very real to the people fighting them. And if we want to be of any genuine help, we first have to acknowledge that these hidden struggles exist right under our noses. That brings us to our first main theme today, behind the suffering, where we focus on identifying the humanity in pain. You know, the title of Olivo's book, Endemoniados, can definitely carry a lot of stigma depending on your background. But she asks us to look past that label. We really need to look past the intense terminology to find the vulnerable human element she focuses on. This quote directly from the source beautifully captures her primary motivation. Behind many situations, there are people who need understanding, help, and guidance. It sounds simple, right? But it's actually profound when applied to deeply stigmatized issues. Olivo's framework reminds us that when we encounter someone going through extreme spiritual or emotional turmoil, we must look at that human being with love, patience, and wisdom. The behavior or the struggle might be incredibly difficult to witness, but at the absolute center of it is a person in desperate need of a guide. Olivo draws a very explicit and interesting boundary here. We must move away from rejection and fear. According to her framework, anyone facing what she terms spiritual oppression must never, under any circumstances, be treated with rejection or fear. Historically, people facing severe unseen battles have often been pushed to the margins of society simply because their struggles make others uncomfortable. But Olivo insists that reacting with fear or pushing the person away completely halts any chance of restoration. The helper must remain grounded, open, and totally unafraid. Let's move to our next section. Discernment and understanding. This is where we get into the actual method to help. Because, look, while having a compassionate heart is a great starting point, good intentions alone simply aren't enough. If you're going to extend a hand to someone in a complex crisis, you need specific tools. You need a structured approach to ensure the help you're offering actually matches the struggle they're experiencing. So the crucial point is understanding how Olivo defines this tool of discernment. It's the ability to understand a person's unique situation without judging, differentiating spiritual oppression from other struggles. This is the essential first step to helping someone, according to the book. You can't just apply a one-size-fits-all solution to human suffering. Discernment means taking a step back, suspending your immediate judgment, and truly evaluating what's at the root of this person's pain. To put this into practice, Olivo outlines 4 specific pillars of help. First up, prayer, establishing a spiritual foundation for those who operate within that framework. Second, accompaniment, which just means being there, walking alongside the person so they aren't isolated in their struggle. Third, spiritual support, providing the specific guidance they might be seeking. And fourth, recognizing each individual case, which ties right back into that concept of discernment. These 4 steps are designed to build a really robust foundation of support. They ensure the person feels seen and anchored rather than isolated. This requires us to acknowledge a difficult truth in Section 3. Not every struggle is the same. We must differentiate the source of pain. The book carefully categorizes different types of sufferers to prevent helpers from making harmful assumptions. Olivo specifically mentions the distinction between those who are seekers, meaning they're looking for spiritual answers, and those who are simply the sick. Conflating the two can lead to providing the completely wrong kind of support, which can honestly do more harm than good. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how she breaks this down. On one hand, we have spiritual oppression. These are situations that, according to Olivo's framework, require spiritual answers or liberation. But compare that to emotional wounds. This is internal pain that requires emotional healing, like therapy or counseling. And finally, physical illness. These are medical conditions needing physical and medical care from professionals. Olivo maintains a super strict rule here. You must differentiate the source of the pain and not judge quickly. Trying to apply a spiritual solution to a strictly physical illness or vice versa is totally counterproductive to the person's healing. This strict categorization is incredibly necessary because of the heavy burden of suffering in silence. Olivo observes that so many people carry these invisible battles completely on their own because they simply don't know how to seek help. Or worse, they're terrified of being misunderstood or placed in the wrong category by well-meaning friends. So this entire framework aims to open up a safe conversation. It's about creating an environment where a person can admit they're struggling and trust that they'll be met with love, respect, and responsibility, not immediate, sweeping assumptions. Which leads us to our final and perhaps most important section today, the power of compassion. This is the call to action. Olivo doesn't just want the reader to theorize about spiritual warfare or analyze human suffering from a distance. She presents an actionable, empathetic solution. Once you've used discernment, once you've categorized the struggle correctly without judgment, it all comes down to how you choose to act when someone is standing in front of you. She presents this actionable solution with a final message. No one should be ignored when they are suffering, and we must learn to listen, accompany, and seek truth with wisdom. It is an absolute necessity to practice compassionate listening. Notice the verbs she uses here: listen, accompany, seek. These are active words. They require us to step out of our own comfort zones and enter into the messy, often painful reality of the person right in front of us. No one should be ignored. The core takeaway from Olivo's work is simple but deeply profound. Restoration begins the moment someone extends a helping hand. It doesn't mean you have all the answers right away. It doesn't mean you can instantly fix their emotional wound, cure their physical illness, or fight their spiritual battle for them. But the mere decision to offer help, to reach out without fear and without rejection, is the catalyst for a person's restoration. The focus is entirely on empathetic action. Your extended hand is the bridge back to hope for someone who feels lost. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to reflect on today. How can you extend a hand to someone suffering in silence today? We all know someone fighting an invisible battle, even if we can't quite see the details of it yet. Keep Alondra Olivo's framework in mind. Approach them with love, use discernment to understand their unique needs, and offer your presence without judgment. Thank you so much for joining me to explore these powerful concepts. Keep learning, keep paying attention to those around you, and I'll see you next time.